Welcome, college basketball fans, to the Full Court Press Podcast with LT and Sammy D. This is the podcast that brings you legendary stories from college basketball's golden era and dives in deep with a current analysis of today's game. Get ready for the most energetic and entertaining college basketball podcast around. Let's get it.
Hello and welcome to another Full Court Press. Luke Taylor here, back in the saddle. I am alone. Sam will be missed, but I am wearing one of my favorite colors, orange. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review to the Full Court Press, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Don't forget to review and give us a 5-star rating and comment, and then also follow us on all our social media. But I'm really excited about this one. I actually saw his team play in the flesh last year at Wyoming, and I've always been impressed. And I really want to talk about some of the stuff he used to say or create. I hear he's a really good storyteller from his days at Gonzaga. So we got Coach Leon Rice from the Boise State Broncos. Welcome to the press, Coach.
Well, thanks for having me, Luke. I've got a question for you. What in the world were you doing in Laramie in the middle of winter?
First of all, Coach, it's called Laradice.
Oh, you must have went there.
Yeah, so we actually, Sam, my partner in crime, who's not here, obviously, he's somewhere, but he lives in Fort Collins. So we always do, last year was our first year, a road trip. So we went to Colorado State and we were at the game where Lucas hit that 3-pointer to win the game at the buzzer.
Oh, wow.
We were there. We were on the floor, and we actually interviewed Jaden Lucas and Coach Alford after the game. We interviewed Nico and Isaiah the day before. We went up to Wyoming, interviewed Coach Linder, and actually it was really kind of eerie because 2 days before, a week before, that's where they had all the swimmers pass away, the handful of swimmers in the accident, and then they had that. So, but I will tell you, if Sundance can get it going, that place is going to be a tough place to play.
Oh, I've always said that. It's one of the hardest places to go to and to play in the country. And people don't understand that until they've lived it.
Yeah.
You're dealing with altitude. They got great fans there. And, over my tenure, they've had some really, really good teams up in Laramie.
Yeah, you said
or
altitude.
Laradice, as you call it.
Thank you. Let's be respectful here.
Yes.
The altitude killed me. I mean, within 15 minutes of getting off that flight in Denver, I think we pulled over in a gas station. I literally got like 2 gallons of water. I mean, I just could not. So I can't imagine for you guys or these other teams, how difficult. Like when they played the regional, I think was in Utah this past year, or maybe it was the first or second round. I mean, I can't even imagine some of these teams like a Dayton or someone like that not used to it having to hit that, because it hits pretty hard.
Yeah, but the good thing we play the games indoors, right?
Yeah. Well, you guys have a blue football field, Coach. So
yeah.
So you guys, I mean, you've done a really good job. I mean, just looking at your background, your pedigree, you've had 11 20-win seasons. You got a great team returning, Tyson Denehart, who's, obviously preseason player of the year, probably candidate for All-American watching, what have you. You brought in a really nice point guard from San Jose State, which is weird to say because they're in conference, but I mean, he's dynamic. You got Amari Stanley back. I mean, how excited are you? How excited should Boise State fans be for this basketball team this year?
Well, there's a lot of buzz around Boise with what's going on with our football team, and
you can't say that word, Coach, on this podcast. You're not allowed to say that.
I can, because I'm a huge football fan. So
yeah, I know. I'm just
you can't. I can. There's a buzz and excitement about Boise State and our athletic department, and just the city of Boise. It's growing like you wouldn't believe. It's kind of a happening place now, and so it's a really, really exciting place to be. I think we've got, we were, like you said, we were picked first, and football teams right now in first, and got a big game tomorrow, and so there's a lot going on. We got a Heisman candidate, we got Player of the Year candidates on our basketball team. It's a great time to be a Bronco.
Yeah, yeah. And I really like the pieces you brought in. You brought in the big guy Dylan Anderson from Arizona, was the 7-footer, two-time all Arizona Gatorade Player of the Year. The kid I'm really excited to see because of we had Riley Minix from Morehead State, who is an NAA guy who's now in the NBA for the Spurs, but Javen Buchanan.
Yeah.
He's going to light up some rims. Then you got another kid. You got a kid from Lehigh. So I like that you had a nice nucleus coming back, and I think you really put together kind of that puzzle. I guess talk about some of these new players coming into the program.
Yeah, it is. It is a puzzle, and when you're doing it, it's hard to see the end product and know what you're going to get. And I think sometimes you get a little lucky with how the puzzle fits together. Credit to my assistants because the amount of you don't have that much time to do it, so it's speed dating, and mistakes can be made, and you can get surprises both good and bad. And I think we got a lot of great surprises in the way they fit together, not just as people and they're clicking that way, but also their basketball tools fit together nicely. And we got a bunch of big guys that can shoot, and that helps spread the floor. And then you got a bunch of guards that can post also. So you couldn't do that if your big guys couldn't shoot and couldn't play on the perimeter. So all those things, that's just one example, but all these guys are fitting together nicely. And the other thing that was great is you got a good nucleus of returning minutes. I think that's a big, big key in this modern era of basketball. You got to have a nucleus of guys that have proven it, not only in your program, but some of them, like we got Alvaro, he's proven it in this league. He wasn't in our program, but boy, did he adjust quickly. And so it gives you a good upperclassman. Then we brought in 3 really good freshmen, 2 that redshirted here last year. So they're accustomed to what we do. And then you got 3 transfers that are going to play this year that I think we hit it out of the park with. So but it's still a challenge because you're mixing in 8 guys that didn't play for you last year. And, so that's going to be where the biggest challenge is.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you talk about 8. I mean, we've interviewed coaches that have got 13, 11,
Right.
12. What I like with your off season, with your recruiting class is the balance. You're looking at the now and also the future.
Yeah.
And I feel like, it's tough because there's so much more now pressure. And I mean, there's more, it's more competitive and what have you, that it's like, you got to win now. But I like how you're bringing in some of these freshmen. And Boise State is a place you don't see a lot of kids really transfer from. It's a good destination. And obviously with your longevity, you can actually sell that. But I mean, you're a recognized program, a recognized brand. I mean, your preseason this year in the Mountain West, how difficult this offseason more than others was it with scheduling, putting together a non-conference schedule?
Well, the inventory was shortened because of the amount of games that, first of all, that we're going to play. We're going to play 20 games in the Mountain West this year. And then the inventory that's out there's not as much because leagues are expanding, leagues are growing, and they're playing more league games. So it's getting more and more difficult. And that was one of the reasons that factored into the Mountain West going to 20 games. It was a big reason, but also that we've done a great job. The coaches in this league have done a great job of scheduling, and you got a bunch of guys that know what they're doing in that aspect. But my staff, Mike Burns especially, does such a good job with that, and he understands the analytics of it and what you have to do, and you have to go play some good teams, and we certainly did that this year.
Yeah, and I like your schedule. You open up home at Oakland. I mean, Oakland, I was in the flesh when they beat Kentucky. We've had Coach Campy on the show a couple times. We've had Coach Gerlifson. You're playing at San Francisco. The Dons are right there in the WCC. Home against Clemson. We've had Coach Donlin on the show. Cayman Islands, where you might face Duke or Duquesne or South Dakota State. And then Washington State and St. Mary's. I mean, that's a really good, tough, challenging non-conference schedule.
No doubt. And it's right out of the gate because, like you said, we opened with Oakland, one of the legends of the game. He's going to get his 700th win Monday night. And we want him to get that Monday night so he doesn't have to deal with it coming here. But he's a legend and a great coach, and you saw that in the NCAA tournament last year. And
Oh,
he's
it
got
was,
great players. He knows how to
yeah,
find players, and um,
it was,
so that's a great opener. We're excited about that. And then you got to go. Then we're going on the road. We want to play a road game, and um,
mm,
you're playing at San Francisco, and that's a big one.
yeah,
They've got a great nucleus coming back. A lot of old veterans. Marcus Williams has been
yeah,
in college basketball for 15 years, it seems
yeah,
like, and he can destroy a team by himself. I mean, he is a dynamic, explosive player, and then you got Clemson at home, so
yeah.
right out of the gate we have to be playing at a high level because our schedule is at a high level.
Right. Well, but you have to play at a high level to get those. I mean, last year with the Mountain West, I mean, that was awesome, the amount of teams you got in.
Yeah,
And we've talked to Coach Medved and Coach Miles, and they're like, yeah, they're not going to let 6 in again from the Mountain West. So, but you've got to, I mean, prepare yourself for that because honestly, I mean, a lot of a lot of these conferences, I mean, you guys are a high major conference. You're not mid major, but a lot of these mid major conferences, they're only going to get a chance for that 3 or 4 days in March to prove themselves. So kudos to that. And I've heard coaches say that the toughest job in coaching is being the scheduling coordinator. So
yeah,
kudos.
it's not I had to do it for a year at Gonzaga, and I was terrible at it. I hated it. So kudos to Mike Burns. He takes on a lot of stuff around here, and all the stuff I hate to do, and
Yeah.
does a great job with it. But no, who knows? I mean, we don't know if the Mountain West is going to get 6 because they didn't let us in.
No,
Everybody earned their way in last year,
absolutely.
and one of our, people forget about UNLV. The reason they weren't on the radars because the way, I mean, they lost some key games early before they had everybody, and then when
Right.
the NCAA changed the rule to what they did, they got some guys eligible, and um, when they had their complete team, they were as good as anybody. And
I believe
so
they beat
that's
Creighton.
7 teams that
Yeah.
were probably deserving of NCAA tournament, and 6 that fought their way in somehow, some way. And so uh, you just don't know how it's going to be year to year,
Right.
and a lot of it's predicated on how all of us do in the preseason. And
Right. Right.
I think some of us have great schedules and great opportunities to do that, and so you just got to see where the dust settles.
Yeah, you've got an interesting coaching journey. I mean, you've been at Boise State forever. You keep going; they might put a statue of you at least somewhere on the campus. You were at Gonzaga under a guy who's been there forever too. You were in Gonzaga for 11 years. What are some of the advice you've gotten over from Coach Few over the years?
Well, our relationships goes back to 1986. We met at Oregon Duck basketball camp, so he and I have been
Wow.
best friends for a long, long time, and so we bounce stuff off each other all the time. But there's a lot of lessons that I think he's a great example of, and the first one being that you can have some sanity and you can be a family person. You can value the right things and do it that way. I mean, because the proof is in the pudding. I mean, a couple of years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, uh, all of us, you look at all the Gonzaga guys, Dan Munson at Long Beach State, Tommy Lloyd at Arizona, Mark at Gonzaga, and me at Boise State. All of us won our league the one year, 3 years ago, I think it was. And all of us went to the NCAA tournament. Like same thing last year. All of us went to the NCAA tournament. And it's, I mean, that is pretty amazing. But, the proof is in the pudding that our way works pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Uh, and so that's pretty powerful that there's some, I think, analytics to this game that I think young coaches maybe go overboard with. I think you have to have a mix of feel and analytics, and I think that's kind of the way we do it with the Gonzaga, model.
Right.
And so those have been probably two of the biggest things that that we talk about a lot. That
Hmm.
young coaches maybe have to understand that hey, we always coming up and through the ranks, boy, did we work hard, but we also enjoyed ourselves, and we had a great camaraderie with all the group of guys that we all came up with: Tad Boyle and Mark
Yep.
Turgeon and Bill
Chad
Walker
Boyle.
and
Yeah.
Ray Giacoletti, and so there was such a bond and a chemistry and looking out for each other that it was pretty powerful. So I think some of that is lost on this generation of coaches, but it's something that we try to model and pass on to younger coaches. So I think it's really valuable.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I mean, we are definitely the college basketball coaches show. We get a lot of We've had a lot of coaches. I mean, I think we've interviewed 50 in the last month for our preview shows and what have you. And the one thing that I've noticed is the longevity, like kind of like what you're doing and the recipe that Coach Few started, is coaches are not leaving so quickly the current programs. And it's that whole balance. I mean, you look at the MAC, they've got guys that have been there 11, 10 years. I mean, I know it's not the Mountain West, but I mean, you look at your thing, you look at, the WCC and what have you, Coach Bennett. So hopefully the younger generation doesn't, I hope the younger generation of coaches understand that you shouldn't be always chasing something, that sometimes where you're at and the balance with family and life and kids is better than maybe that, bigger opportunity. I don't know.
Well, it's hard to sustain that other thing. And, it's actually harder to stay in one place than it is to bounce around. So sometimes I think people maybe do it out of fear a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
man, if I don't leave, but it's also, it comes with our jobs. There's not
Yeah.
much security anymore because, like you said, there's people want instant success. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the moment you fall off, there's an outcry to get rid of you. I mean,
Yeah.
you could fall off and have a couple bad games. They want to get
Yeah.
rid of you. So it is the profession, and I get it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's why I came to Boise State, because
Yeah.
I actually saw what they had done in football. And, when I was at Gonzaga, I had opportunities to take other jobs.
Absolutely.
And I passed in the fact that I wanted a place that I could build that didn't have a ceiling on what you could build. And that's what I saw
Yeah.
in Boise, because I knew what they had done in football. And, fortunately I was right that there is no ceiling on this place, and we can keep growing it. And then, that's the thing too. I've always said this, the moment we stop growing at Boise, that's probably the moment I need to move on,
Yeah.
because we have to fight to keep growing. We got an administration that thinks the same way, and they've added so much to our programs, and we're going to continue to do that in this new era. And we've been innovative. We've been ahead of the curve in a lot of things here at Boise State. You mentioned the blue turf; it goes that far back, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the way we like to do it here. And I think we're still. I know we're still doing that.
So I want you to kind of tell me about this comment I'm going to make, or this something I did some research on. According to Mark Few, Rice occasionally created stories about what opposing student sections were saying about Gonzaga star Adam Morrison in order to pump him up prior to games.
Yeah, that is a true story, and that was before the internet, really. As far as the guys had all access on their phone,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
with that. Yeah, and Adam was my guy. I loved Adam, and I was
Great
just
basketball player.
funny. I was talking to my son about him yesterday. I mean, he asked me, like, who are some of my favorite all times to coach, and I spurted out 20 different names, but I think Adam has to be at the top of that list, just because
Yeah.
he was a great competitor, just a great competitor. And, I always use the Prefontaine quote. Uh, Steve Prefontaine didn't run races to see who the fastest was. He wanted to see who the toughest was. And that's kind of how Adam played basketball. And I just loved it. And, but there were some nights where I knew he was going to need a little bit of a help and a little push, and he wanted that motivation. And he's a really, really smart guy. So in my mind, I think he knew that I knew that he knew I was making it up a little
All right,
bit.
give me a good story that you told him once.
Well, just, I can't say some of the words I used, but
Oh, it's
I
fine.
would say that I heard that the guy that was going to guard him said he was soft and said that, all he does is shoot jump shots or whatever,
Yeah.
what I wanted him to get to do. And I'll show him. I'm going to get to the rim all night on him.
Yeah.
He's not going
And
to be
he
able to
did.
stop me. But I'd use some great words. I was like, no, I know an assistant who knows an assistant there. And he told me that this guy says he's going to shut you down and that he's so much tougher than you and called you this word, that word. And I was like, where? I'll kill him. I remember one time at the 16-minute media timeout, he's walking towards the bench and I acted like I saw something. I said, "Did you see what he just called you, Adam? What'd he say?" And I'd make up a whole story. I saw him saying it as you were walking over here. And he's like, "I'll kill him. Let me back in. I'll kill him." And he'd go at guys. And, we were playing at Memphis and Coach Cal just had given his guys so much instruction about you do not talk trash to Adam Morrison. And man, anytime somebody started to approach him, I think it was Douglas Roberts that started talking trash and he yanked him out of the game. So, he was a smart coach. He knew you don't get Adam going because when you did, look out.
Oh my God. Would you say, we saw your son Max play last year when we were in Laradice. Would you say he would say that you were a good storyteller as a father?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because, he's a basketball junkie. He loves these stories and, we reminisce about them but it's what we do. It's what we share as a family. We all love to watch hoops, talk hoops. And,
it's the greatest game in the world, man.
Fortunate. I've had some great, I've got to coach so many great players, been with so many, good friendships of great coaches and what they've gone on to do that I got a million of them, luckily.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do this thing called the shot clock. Sam usually sets it up for me. It's just quick one hitters. If it leads to a story or whatever, but we'll go through this quickly because I know your time is valuable. But one word to describe Boise State.
Well, I would say innovative, because we were just talking about it. So it's in the top of my mind. We are always striving for innovation. Even, we talk about this, even at the pinnacle of our programs, we're trying to find ways to innovate and add value. And, now with the NIL stuff, we're doing innovative stuff and taking care of our guys in different ways. And that, cause that's important. We want to make sure our guys and in all our programs, not just guys, our gals, all our athletes are taken care of at a higher level. And, it may not always be dollar for dollar. Now we're competitive there. Don't get me wrong, but we've innovated in ways that have really helped the student athletes here.
Yep. Okay. Toughest place to play in the Mountain West.
Oh, now that's an impossible question. You can go down every school and go, well, this is tough for this reason. You've seen it. And until you've lived it and seen it, it's there. You cannot pick one because to get one road win is remarkable in this league. It really is. Because we have factors that people don't understand, that the altitude and the travel and all that stuff that other leagues maybe don't have. And that's one of the most preposterous things I've ever heard is there's some formula out there that is punishing you for altitude wins. Like you get less value for that.
Yeah.
That is the complete opposite. If you can go win at altitude at a different venue at altitude, you should get extra benefit to it.
Well, Coach,
I don't know who designed that, but it was one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, I ran the floor once at Moby Arena before, right after. It was in between interviewing Coach Medved and Isaiah Stevens, and there was a basketball. So, I'm like, I'm going to go run the floor. So I literally ran the floor, went for a layup, jogged out of the arena. I thought I was going to have a heart attack.
Yeah, and your lungs are burning. And, there's a reason why they put that up there on the screen at Laradice is you may die from all this, and you may, So.
All right. Toughest recruit to sign. I wonder if you'd say it was your son, but toughest recruit to sign. Is there one that was really challenging, kind of a battle against maybe a rival or someone like that?
Now, I'll go back a long, long ways. The Mark Few's Moby Dick, the white whale, was Luke
Mm-hmm.
Ridnour. And Mark had been on him as an assistant. He got the head coaching job there. And,
Mm-hmm.
I had agreed to come from Yakima Valley Community College. And man, I mean, the second I agreed, he's like, "Well, we got to get you on Ridnour. We got to be recruiting Ridnour." And it was just an obsession of his.
Yeah.
And but we had Dan Dickow and Blake Stepp at the time, so we
Mm-hmm.
would have had 3 point guards, which we would have found a way, and we would have played all three of them together. But
Yeah.
we didn't end up getting him. But man, it was an obsession.
Yeah.
It was maybe the first heartbreak we'd ever had, like as a
Mm-hmm.
man, we got to get this guy, and we didn't get him.
Yeah. Okay. Most memorable game you've ever coached?
Wow. The sad thing about that question is a lot of times those can be losses. And
Don't be like Tad Boyle. I almost
yeah,
had to buy him a Miller Lite.
yeah. It's they can be because they just stick with you maybe longer. Because over the years you've had so many great wins that it's hard to compare those. I think maybe one of the coolest games I've ever been involved with was when we played Michigan State in 4 overtimes with Adam, and because it was almost the perfect game for everybody involved. I think the refs called a perfect game. The players all played it was in November, and you're in the perfect venue in
Mm-hmm.
Maui. You walk out and you're on the beaches of Maui, and so that felt like it was. You're never going to go there again. I mean, both teams, like I think between the two teams, they missed one free throw, scored 100, and I think the score was 109 to 105 or something like that.
Holy
Crazy.
cow.
And it was because we would make plays, they would make plays. I mean, it was all night long, and we were fortunate to come out on top and
Mm-hmm.
um, made maybe one more play than them after playing 4 overtimes. And
Oh
so
my
I
God.
would say that's got to be the most
Okay.
memorable in the
Okay.
positive way, because it was one of the best college basketball games we were just sitting there watching, jaw dropping. And like I said, the refs were perfect. The announcers were perfect. I mean, just
Everything
there's
was just
nothing about
surreal.
that
Yep.
game that
Yep.
was
Yep.
not
Yep.
absolute uh, at the highest level.
Okay. Funniest recruiting story.
Oh boy. I don't know where I start with those, but we got a million of them. So it's hard to narrow those down. I mean,
That's okay.
Mark and I were talking about, we were on BJ Reigns' deal, and we were just talking about like what we used to have to do. And,
Mm-hmm.
you go out in July for 30 days and, write letters home, like
Mm-hmm.
it's, so I think some of those old stories about how Mark and I were in a tiny little Scirocco that we got from a dealership that was a Gonzaga booster. And we're driving down the 405 and the bumper fell off. And, neither of us are mechanical. And he's like, well, go get it. I'm like, I'm not going to run down the 405 and go get it. Well, I did. And we had to go get it and put it in the back of our car. And we got the bumper sticking out. And you're like, what are we doing here? We're
Oh,
risking our life to get this bumper that fell off. But so that was, but
yeah.
we had so many great times along the way where we're just out grinding and,
Yeah. It's a different
all of
time now.
us.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
time now.
And I think those special bonding nights in Vegas that, when you really got to know each other and really shaped our philosophies, because we'd sit around and talk hoops with Turge and Tad and Ray
Mhm.
and Dan and Billy Walker and then the old guys, we'd listen to them. And
Yeah.
so those were the greatest. I mean, those were so hard, and
Mm-hmm.
we would go so hard and then get up and we'd be at those 8 a.m. games,
Yeah.
bright-eyed and bushy-tailed
Yeah.
and ready to go. So I think those were where we cut our teeth, where we formed our philosophies and most importantly, all these deep friendships that we
Yeah.
have with these guys.
Yep. Yep. All right. Last question. So they're making a Hollywood movie about your life. What would be the name or the title of the movie, and who would play you?
Oh boy. Uh, Geez, that's a tough one. I think Richard Gere probably, maybe. I think. What do you think?
Nice. I can see that.
That's a good one. Like
That's
maybe
like,
from his old Officer and Gentleman days.
yes,
Uh,
yes. Good movie.
yes. Thank you for knowing that. That's an old
I
one.
know.
Uh,
What
I
other
don't know.
title?
I guess the title would be just something. It's how unlikely all these stories that our group had of where we came from. I mean, Mark and I started out as ninth grade coaches. So just you know, how we beat all the odds to get where we all were.
Yep.
And I'm not just talking about me, let's talk about
In
all the
general, yep.
our whole group. And if you would have told us back then that, hey, someday, you guys are going to all go do this, we would have been like, wow, that's,
Yep.
So I think that's that's a great lesson that I try to teach all our players. There's going to be a lot of people that, even yourself maybe, that will tell you, you can't do that and you're not going to be able to do that. And well, if you would have told us all that back then, we would have, it would have been hard to fathom what was going to happen to all our careers. And so it's a great lesson for all these young guys. And like, hey, you don't know, just keep plugging away and keep working and enjoy the process and the journey. And I think we did a pretty good job of that journey. And there's a lot still ahead of us. I mean, and we do a pretty darn good job of staying in these moments and enjoying what's right in front of us. Mark and I were talking about this. We got a lot to replace next year. So does he. But guess what? We'll figure it out, and we're just going to enjoy every single day that we have with these really good guys and this great staff that I have and these good players that I have. So that's my focus right now.
Yeah.
And
Love
I
it.
think we've done a good job of that in the past, and it's hard. That's hard.
Yeah.
But
I got the
we're gonna
title.
make
I
sure
got
we
the
do
title,
that.
coach. I got the title, coach. It's called The Grind, the Leon Rice story.
That's true. That's a pretty good title. I appreciate that. And but the grind has almost a negative connotation because there's been so much joy and ups and downs and the beauty of the grind, I think, would be a
Yep.
good name,
The process.
because
Yep.
we
Yep.
found a lot of beauty and a lot of joy in all those moments that when you were in them, they felt completely like a grind. But I think
Yep.
we've done a pretty good job of finding the joy and the beauty in all those great moments.
We have yet to interview a coach now in a year, and probably like 75 coaches that are doing it for the fame, the money, and the social media aspect of it. I mean, it's about coaching.
Yeah.
And like Coach Travis Steele from Miami, Ohio, he says that 2 hours, 2.5 hours where I'm on the court, it's just pure beauty for me. Nothing else. I'm
Yeah.
just coaching the boys, coaching my team.
And I think when the older you get, the more you're able to appreciate that. Because, every one of my group, we love the practices. We love the time in the locker room with these guys and the games. When you're younger, the excitement of all that, I think, gets you going. But that wears off where the other doesn't. The relationships don't wear off. The time I get with all these young guys and being able to help them, because the older I get and the more experienced I've gotten, the more I've been able to help them. And, I'm a lot better coach now than I was 20 years ago. I know that. And I think you could say that about all of us. And so, that being able to have that wisdom and that experience to share with these guys really, really can affect their future, not just in basketball, but their whole lives. And that's what we're all about. And that's why we've survived and kept going this long. And because if you get in it for the other reasons, it's going to burn you up and kill you.
Yeah. Well, Coach, thanks so much. You're going to stick with us for one more second. Really appreciate. Check out Coach Rice and the Boise State Broncos in the overly competitive Mountain West Conference this year. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be back on the Full Court Press hopefully next week with another great coach, some more great stories, and especially some really good stories from Coach Rice. But thanks again, and Sam will be.